Welcome to Action Callers. I'm Reva Camiel, your host and action coach. And you're on the right station if you're tired of just hearing complaints without a commitment to find a solution. Action Callers is based on these 5 ideas. 1, everybody can serve, and everyone has something to contribute. Everyone is unique and has special talents, and many people do help, but we don't always see them. And no one can accomplish big things alone. Our changemaker guest today is Ed Telfeyan, who is a columnist with the Sacramento Gazette. And so he's here, and I'm a little bit out of breath. It's been one of those days when the computer doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and I'm reading from a different kind of script than normally, but I'm just delighted that we're here, and Ed is here with me and fixing the spelling of his name, and he'll even teach me how to say it and maybe teach the rest of you how to say it for when you call in. So this program is for those who are committed to find solutions to problems that are bothering you. And Ed and I are going to be talking about some of the things that have bothered him and what he's done about that to make a difference to end those things. And I'd like you to be able to call. If you would, call us at 916-456-5199, and I'll repeat that number in a few minutes. It's 916-451-5199. And we are, and our changemaker guest, Ed Telfeyan. Is that right, Ed? Okay, say it. Say it a couple of...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ed Telfeyan. It's much easier than you're making it sound.
Ed Telfeyan.
Right.
Ed Telfeyan. I might miss it a few more times.
That's
but
all right.
Just bear with me. And I urge you to call Ed and myself with your ideas and projects that you're excited about also. You can also call in with a complaint if you're willing to be coached by me and Ed tonight. And we would love to help you make the changes that you feel that you need in your community, but maybe just don't know how to take your first step. And so right now I'd like to welcome Ed here with us for the first time. And remember, you can call us at any time during the show at 456-5199. And no, you can leave that up there.
I just want to make sure you've got this information right.
Yeah, don't we? 451?
It says 451, but your producer just said it's 456.
456-5199.
Or I guess that's your
he's going to fix me.
Control guy.
That's my, okay.
The producer doesn't have
he's
it
right, but my greeter, she's a little...
Greeter, is that who she
she's
is?
still
Okay.
dyslexic a little bit, and she moves numbers around, and she...
456.
But we still love her because she gives massages to our guests.
Well,
if they do a good job at the break. He does a good job.
All
She'll
right.
be in here and give you a shoulder massage.
All right.
And so I met Ed at a few weeks ago. We were asking questions of the judges over at for the League of Women Voters had a forum, and we asked questions of 2 people. What was his name?
Don Steed. And Trina Berger.
Trina Berger.
Running for Superior Court Judge in Sacramento County.
Yeah, so that was really a first for me. I'm a counselor mostly, and I got introduced as a media person, and so that was a whole new title for me, so that was kind of fun. How about for you, Ed?
Well, it wasn't a first for me for a couple of reasons. I was asked, I think, to take part in that forum, Reva, because of my work with the Sacramento Gazette, where I write a couple of columns every week, and I'm also an attorney, so I think the combination was too much for them to ignore, and they asked me to take part in that debate or forum, as it was called.
Yeah, what was your opinion of taking part in a debate? What was that like for you?
I was disappointed to the extent that the candidates didn't really respond all that meaningfully, in my opinion, to the questions they were asked. I'm not sure what was going on there, because the campaign, as I understand it, has been pretty heavy.
Maybe it even got heavier after we were there.
Yeah, it might very well have. But during the half hour that we were peppering them with questions, they were very reserved, and the closest thing we got to any kind of an argument was over the question of whether or not it is ethical for a potential judge to take a position on a proposition, an initiative on the ballot. Mr. Steed has taken a position, as you know, against Proposition 36, And Ms. Berger, with
You want to tell us?
yeah, Proposition 36, of course, is the proposition that will be on the ballot next week that would change the criminal code, the penal code, to the extent of dealing with those charged and convicted of drug possession and drug use. It is a controversial measure because currently such individuals are subject to incarceration either in the state penitentiary or in the county jail. The essence of the proposition is that instead of being incarcerated, those individuals would be diverted to a drug rehabilitation type program.
You know, if they do that, they're going to have to build some more drug and alcohol programs because most of them have been shut down in this city anyway.
Right.
So
right.
there's going to have to be a lot of funds for that.
Right, and I think the impetus for the proposition is that there is really an overabundance of individuals who are being incarcerated. We're running out of prison space. The jails are overcrowded.
And it only costs $50,000-$60,000 a year to house each criminal.
Right, and the alternative would be to seek to, if not rehabilitate, at least divert these people who have been convicted of non-violent crimes into a rehab program. But getting back to the point of the debate, Ms. Berger's position was that she was constrained by the canons of ethics for lawyers from taking a position as a potential judge, and she actually brought, or she said she had brought, well, none of us actually looked at it, but she said she had brought a copy of the canons with her to the debate as if we were all going to take the time to read that provision. And so she has not taken a position, which is an interesting point, I suppose. Mr. Steed is very outspoken against this proposition. I think he's a co-chair of the No on 36 committee, or one of them. And so he's obviously opposed to it. And Ms. Berger, rather than taking a position for or against, is claiming that she can't take a position because of the
As a lawyer, do you know anything about?
Well, I do know about the canons, and I think that, as I told Ms. Berger after the debate when we were chatting a little bit, I think it's a position that reasonable attorneys could disagree on. In other words, I think that some attorneys, in fact, there are a number of sitting judges who have taken a position on Proposition 36, who have come out in opposition to Proposition 36. So obviously, those individuals would think that they were acting unethically. On the other hand, reading the language, and Ms. Berger's point is, if she were indeed assigned as a sitting judge to hear a case brought against the validity of Proposition 36, should such a case be brought, should the proposition pass, then she would be in a position of having to recuse herself, to remove herself from that case, which is probably true if she had taken a position. I mean, Mr. Steed presumably would have to remove himself from that case if it were brought to him.
It's an interesting
interesting little argument that kind of esoteric, I suppose, in a certain sense, but she seems to have taken a principled position on it, and so that's where she stands.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you that the people didn't answer our questions very straightforward. They did what I've heard that they've learned how to do as politicians, is to turn every question into one of their pat speeches.
Yeah, but it was even more surprising to me than that, Reva, because in several instances they really didn't even do that. They just kind of said yes or no as quickly as they could, and it was done with, as opposed to taking the time to give a speech in their own behalf on whatever issue they wanted to talk about. Most often, you find that politicians will never pass up an opportunity to talk. If they're allowed 2 minutes, they'll talk for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And in this case, I found that both of the candidates
went through our questions pretty fast.
Yeah, really didn't have much to say. So it was kind of curious.
So Ed, what got you into being? You are an attorney. Were you an attorney before a columnist?
Yes,
and
I was.
What got you into really being interested in federal government, world affairs. When did you start doing that in your life? What was the emphasis?
I'm not sure when I started being interested. I suppose I've been interested in those issues all my life. It came to pass that at a certain point as a practicing attorney, I found myself looking for other things to do.
Why is that?
Well, because I guess I was tired of practicing law,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the sense of doing it as a sole pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
What kind of law do you practice?
I have practiced, Reva, a general cross section of the types of matters that come to an attorney, and I currently am strictly doing transactional work, which is to say that I don't do any more courtroom work. I've moved away from trying cases and doing court appearances.
Mm-hmm.
So I
But
strictly
those
deal.
must be really stressful.
They can be very stressful,
Mm-hmm.
and you also end up feeling sometimes that you are really not furthering justice as much as you are helping greedy clients get perhaps more than they probably should. So I guess I just got tired of it. So I now do transactional work for clients, that is to say, negotiate contracts and draft the documents and that kind of thing. But in terms of my writing, I started writing for the Gazette about 3 or 4 years ago now, a little over 3 years ago. And my editor is very kind. He gives me carte blanche to write whatever I care to write about on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I noticed. I was reading your latest article in there, and it was about baseball.
Right.
And-
I occasionally will throw a sports
And then-
article in there, and baseball is a passion for me. So I think the one you're referring to was about why I hate the Yankees, and it was timed, of course, to coincide with the World Series. But yeah, so I've just been doing that on a weekly basis, and I lately have also been doing reviews under a pen name. My editor and publisher is not going to like my saying this, but I write under the pen name of E. Haig in the Gazette, and those columns are under the Gazette Life heading, and they usually are reviews of current artistic events in Sacramento.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Alternative radio for Sacramento. You are listening to 91.5 FM, Sacramento's voice.
Okay, we caught Ed in the middle of a sentence, and and my mind had just drifted off where we were. So you were in the middle of saying you got a great editor, and you write under a pseudonym too.
I do. So I write 2 columns every week, and they take a fair amount of my time, obviously, in preparing those. And then the other thing that I've been doing this year is teaching a course at McGeorge, the law school that I graduated from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stay very busy.
I must say, you really stay up with a lot of different issues. What are some of your favorite issues? And maybe you could deal a little bit, if it's not your favorite, elections. Well, definitely we want to get into tonight, because it is the week before the election, and I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. It seems to me like if you vote even once, it's like voting twice, because everything gets doubled by the few people that sometimes come out and vote. So make sure you do get out and vote, because your vote does count a lot, I think. What do you think, Ed? Do you think votes count?
I think voting is a civic duty. I think it's the only thing that separates us from some totalitarian states where people don't have the right to make a choice. And even though we constantly are grumbling about the quality of the candidates, the fact is that our system has worked pretty well for over 2 centuries now. So I am a strong believer in the need, the responsibility that everyone has to vote, to make intelligent choices, at least to the extent that you can glean from the candidates which party or which candidate in any given race appeals more to you. I think it's absolutely crucial that everyone vote. And in this election, to a certain extent, it does appear that voting can very well make a difference, because as we see, the presidential race has, according to the polls, been fairly close. Although I must say, Reva, and I don't want to pop anybody's balloon, but I am currently of the view, based on the trend that I see developing, that the presidential election will not end up being as close as it has been suggested it would be.
Really? So not close in which way? What do you think? What's your guess?
Well,
We'll hold you to it.
I must say that I've gone around the block on this. A year ago, if you had asked me, I would have told you that I was absolutely convinced that there was no way that Vice President Gore could lose this election. Coming off of 2 terms where the administration had presided over an outstanding period of economic strength for our country with peace and prosperity, I was convinced that Gore would win in a walk. I was that view. I felt even stronger in that view when the Republicans nominated Governor Bush, who I continue to feel is inadequate to the task of being president. I just don't see that he has the mental competence to or the experience to really be a strong president, at least initially. But having said that, I'm now convinced that Bush is going to win this election, and I think that he is going to win it by a fairly sizable margin, even though the polls are still tending to show that it is a fairly close race. My guess is that when the votes are all counted, he will win by more than 5 points, and I think that it very well might approach the type of victory that Ronald Reagan had over Jimmy Carter in 1980, which, if I recall, was about 51 to 42 or in that vicinity. So I think it could be close to a 10-point victory by the time it's all over. If not, I certainly don't think that it'll be a nail-biter. I think we'll know fairly early on in the evening on Tuesday night that Governor Bush has won. Now, that's my prediction, Reva, and if I'm wrong, it's because things can still change, obviously, and my hope is that they do change, because I do feel that Vice President Gore is the better candidate.
I was one statistic I'm not real good at statistics. Well, one stays in my head about that. I think in the last election, was it that that by two votes in each precinct turned the election around?
I don't remember it in the last election. I think President Clinton won pretty well. In 1960, that was the closest race we probably have had. In 1960, it was said that one vote per precinct would have changed the result of the election. Of course, that was the election that wasn't decided till almost the following morning between Nixon and Kennedy. And we had another close election 8 years later in 1968 between Nixon and Humphrey. In that one, Nixon prevailed, of course, but it was also very close, and it wasn't until the following morning that that election was decided. And then again in 1976, when Jimmy Carter beat then President Ford, it was a very close race right up until the end.
How do you get to remember all that? That's a lot.
Well,
of
I don't even think that I'm remembering it. It's just stuff that you know. I guess I've got a lot of. That's a lot of people ask me how I know so much, and I don't think that I know that much. But when I write these columns, they get the impression that I'm a know-it-all.
I don't say you're a know-it-all.
No, but I just think you just study stuff, or you just sticks. If you're interested in it, it sticks. If you're not, it doesn't. I couldn't tell you the first thing about how to deal with electrical problems in my house, or how to prepare a souffle. I don't know anything about that. I probably could never learn that stuff. So it's just what you're interested in, I suppose.
That's great. So what do you see in the local election, maybe for mayor?
I don't really know. My sense is that Ms. Fargo will win, but I have no way of predicting that. It's not a prediction. The town of Sacramento is a strongly Democratic town. I mean, that's no surprise. But both Kurth and Fargo, of course, are Democrats, and it sometimes is hard to tell which is the true standard bearer of the party. I kind of characterize it that Heather Fargo is an old-line Democrat representing some of the leftover feel-good attitudes of the McGovern campaign, if you will. Rob Kurth seems to be a newer style Democrat, maybe trying to fashion himself after Bill Clinton, but those probably aren't fair characterizations either. I'm not sure that I have a good sense about the strengths or weaknesses of either candidate. I don't live in the city of Sacramento. I'm outside of the city, so it's not a race that I have a vote in, but I just my gut tells me that Heather Fargo probably will prevail, but I very well could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any of the other races that you're particularly interested in, or the propositions?
Well, I just voted today, as a matter of fact,
Did you?
Reva, by
Were you
absentee
number one?
ballot. I'm going to
Oh.
be out of town next week, so I had to vote, and I just today completed my absentee ballot. So I guess I'm kind of as ready to talk about any of them that you'd like to. We just discussed earlier Prop 36. That's an interesting proposition. I voted for it. And I voted for it because I think on balance it does bear some, at least as an experiment, it's worth looking at trying to divert some of these nonviolent criminals, if that's what they are, into drug rehab programs.
Yeah, so let me just say, give us a call at 456-5199. We'd love to hear from you and see if you agree with Ed and myself. I haven't really given, I guess, my opinions yet, and I may never, but but anyway, give us a call at 456-5199.
The other propositions, some of them are, of course, bond measures, and people have their own view about whether bonds are the way to go in terms of raising funds, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. I voted against Proposition 38, which is the so-called voucher initiative. I don't believe that vouchers are a good way to solve our education problem. I think they take resources away from our public schools and leave our public schools with even a bigger problem than they currently face. My solution to the education problem is to pump more money into the schools, to hire new and better teachers, and to ensure that our students are learning through regular testing.
I'd just like to, when you say good and better teachers, I had tried being a teacher in the elementary school in my early 20s, and that was a long time ago, and it was tough work. In fact, I decided to drop out of being a teacher in public schools or in any schools where you had a lot of students and they were little. Just keeping up with the kids in terms of keeping track of their learning, keeping track of their behavior, teaching them how to stand in line and how to walk and
Right,
all the things that you had to do. I was worn out all the time in my early 20s.
All right, I think that
and
we
you need really great training and good mentor teachers to teach you how to do that kind of thing.
I just don't think we respect our teachers enough. It's a very wonderful profession, and their teaching has always been one of the lowest paying professions and yet one of the most important professions. And I think we just need to improve the conditions for teachers across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I voted no on Proposition 38. And I'm not sure what other ones there were of any great importance.
Yeah, so let's wait a couple of seconds, and we'll
Okay.
get back after the break and hear more about some of the propositions and maybe some world issues that are going on. There sure are a lot of world issues going on right now. I'm trying to find a peaceful place to go on a trip, and all the places I want to go are having lots of difficulty right now. So we'll be right back.
The Voice is KYDS 91.5 FM, Sacramento.
Looking for a critical examination of the major news stories every week? Looking for exposés on what the mainstream media might have missed in their own coverage? Looking for lively discussion and thoughtful critique of media? Then listen to Counterspin. Counterspin exposes and highlights biased and inaccurate news, censored stories, sexism, racism, and homophobia, the power of corporate influence, gaffes and goofs by leading TV pundits, TV news' narrow political spectrum, attacks on free speech, and much more. Hear Counterspin Wednesday at noon and Thursday at midnight, right here on The Voice of Sacramento.
Sherman Audio Show featuring all Britney Spears all the time promo. Take one.
But Sherman's not here yet.
We can't wait any longer. What do you usually do when Sherman doesn't show up?
Well, I usually do the show.
Who are you?
I'm Gary Fitz.
Great, you can do the promo. Do you have any Britney Spears music?
No, I usually play stuff that I like.
Like what?
Well, like this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Catch the Sherman Audio Show Wednesday afternoons and Thursday mornings at 3 on The Voice.
Captain, I have contact at 2 o'clock.
We have a visual, Bravo. We have a visual.
That's a Roger, Black Eagle.
On the morning of March 25th, 17 people, 5 of them children, were rescued from a sinking boat by naval reservists.
A Coast Guard cutter is on the way. You're going to be all right.
All this was made possible by their employers who let them answer the call. To everyone who supports the National Guard and Reserve, thanks for making us your business. A public service message brought to you by the employer support of the Guard and Reserve and the Ad Council.
The Voice and Access Sacramento are helping to make a difference. Just ask Sharmi Silva of Weave.
Weave is an agency in Sacramento. It stands for Women Escaping a Violent Environment. Our agency's been around about 20 years. Mainly, we're an agency that offers counseling for victims of domestic violence or dating violence. We offer counseling for male perpetrators of domestic violence, and we also offer counseling for victims of sexual assault. I am creating a video for sexual assault awareness that I will be using in the classroom. I go out into many high schools throughout Sacramento, and I've been able to create the project by taking classes at Access to learn how to use the camera and do the editing, so I'm able to do everything myself.
Sharmi Silva is one of many Access members who've learned to help make a difference in our community. Get involved by becoming a member of Access Sacramento. Call us at 456-8600. Access Sacramento, making a difference, one voice at a time.
Community radio for Sacramento, The Voice. The Voice is 88.7 Cable FM and KYDS 91.5 FM Sacramento.
Okay, we're back on Action Callers, and I'm Reva Camiel, your host, and we have with us Ed Telfeyan, who is our guest. He is a columnist for the Sacramento Gazette and also an attorney in private practice here in Sacramento. And he's one of these really well-read and interested in all these different things going on in the world. So if you'd like to talk to him and get his point of view, it may be different than your own, but we're interested in your opinion also. So give us a call at 916-456-5199. And tonight our discussion is on politics, all kinds.
Right.
Okay, so what gets you interested right now in the world scene?
Well, of course, there's so many things going on in the world. The Middle East, I guess, is the place of greatest concern right now, and it's a very troubling part of our history to see what's happening there. I'm not enough of a student to see a solution. I have to say that, Reva, right now. It's very depressing for anyone who's an advocate of peace to see how this is going to work out. The two sides seem entrenched in their own views of the other, and they're loaded with hate. There's a lot of hate over there.
A lot of hate, fear.
And fear and revenge.
Disappointment.
The revenge factor, recriminations. Every death brings more hatred and more of a feeling of revenge. And so it's a very serious problem. And of course, the big problem is that there's the potential for this to become a tinderbox for a larger conflagration that could involve many, many more nations, many more people, obviously, than just that small group that's located right there. So it's a very serious problem, and I don't really know how it is going to be resolved. It almost seems like it can only be resolved when both sides have wreaked enough havoc and killed enough of their opponents that they finally realize that there's got to be a different way. But it's very serious.
Isn't it sad to think that we're in this caveman kind of existence where we can't even do some wonderful problem solving, sit down and figure out what'll work for everybody. I mean, that's kind of like your business and transactional
right.
law,
But actually, it's even worse than a caveman situation, which is the term used, because what we're really dealing with there is hatred based on beliefs, and they, I hate to say it, but they're based on religious beliefs. I mean, the differences there are over religion. That's really what it boils down to. And of course, we try to think that religion is the great unifier, or at least that it brings out the spiritual side of people, and that there's a goodness that comes out from faith and from religious beliefs. But in point of fact, if we look throughout history, time and time again, differences of religion have led to violence and hatred.
Yeah. So,
and that's what's going on there.
Yeah, it looks like people have to hang on to something. I did hear somebody on, I think it was NPR today. It was an English woman who spoke, and I think her name was Karen, and I want to say Armstrong, but she's written several books, and I've never heard anybody speak so clearly about how the differences kind of got going just this, since 1946. And looking back at, the British, set up this whole thing because they were in charge of Israel at that time. And she mentioned that at that particular time, just before that, there was, just before 46 and, the late, early 40s, that there really wasn't a real religious, strong religious Arab groups. Was not very big at the time, and the Jews who came to Israel were most of them non-religious Jews who came to get away from religion. And Herzl, was. She mentioned, was actually wanted to tear down everything that was religious there, because he wanted to build a state that was free of strong religions, and a lot of the Zionists, that was where they were at the time, and he said in 46, she said in 46 that the Palestinians and the Jews were very happy to figure out a way of dealing with Jerusalem and dividing things up. But, they got caught in one thing or another. Right. And then as the years went on, there was a renewal of religious fervor, both in the Muslim world and in the United States and in Israel, that has gotten bigger and bigger. And now it's become something that's become sacred. Everything is sacred, and I'm not saying they aren't sacred. They are, but people are using that, and countries are using that to make their decisions. And there are ways of working things out, but I don't know. There's something bigger that I don't know about for sure that's going on, and what's in our country's interest in supporting Israel. I think there's a meeting going on today with Israelis visiting with Clinton to talk about getting more money for guns and all kinds of equipment. And if any of you know anything more about that, give us a call and tell us about it. Do you know anything about that meeting?
Well, I don't know anything about today's meeting, but I know that there have been constant efforts by the Clinton administration to get these parties at least to the point where they stop killing each other.
But they're coming asking for money.
Well, that's not unusual either, Reva, I have to say. I mean, Israel, certainly Israel is an ally of the United States, and we support Israel generally in all of their efforts. It's just that in this instance, we are also trying to be an honest broker between the two sides. And we've done that fairly successfully, actually. I think there's no other country in the world today that would be more effective than the United States at trying to bring about a peaceful resolution to the problems. But it is extremely difficult. I don't envision that we would ever have a better opportunity than we have had with President Clinton's leadership. The man is capable of doing such amazing work, notwithstanding any other problems you might want to talk about that he has personally. He's a brilliant guy who dedicates himself fully to the task at hand, and he has put every amount of energy that he has into trying to bring these parties together without success.
What do you think if he gave money to Israel right now for more for missiles and things like that?
Well, I wouldn't know whether to be upset about that or not, because I don't know what the internal needs might be in Israel. Obviously, if you look at a map, Israel is surrounded by potential adversaries. The good news is that they are at peace with Egypt. They've achieved peace with Jordan, two of their immediate neighbors. There is at least a sense of a truce with respect to anything going on in Lebanon. Syria seems to have backed off, especially since the death of Assad. So Saudi Arabia is less hostile to Israel now. So the moves generally have been favorable, but this issue with the Palestinian people, who admittedly are without a homeland, we have to understand that. They have been without a homeland for many, many, many years, and I would imagine that would grow thin.
And they're, living in many of them that are still there in the West Bank and in Gaza are really living in poverty.
Abject poverty.
Abject
Sure,
poverty.
absolutely.
And with nothing, and they're not even able to go back into Israel and work there.
Right.
They're kind of locked into a very difficult kind of thing. I know if I were them, I'd probably get either very angry or very depressed. If I didn't get angry, I'd be very depressed.
Right, a little of both.
What about in Peru? I was thinking about a trip to Peru, to Machu Picchu.
Well, you're looking for a place to vacation, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And
well, Peru is an interesting country. I'm not sure what's going on there. The president, of course, announced that he was going to resign, and then.
Did he?
Well, this was back several months ago. There was a charge of corruption, and that he had fixed the election, and so he announced that he was going to resign. Now I'm not sure what he's doing. He's apparently backed off from that somewhat.
I don't know. He was running around chasing somebody.
Oh, I don't know.
It
Yeah,
sounded
I'm not
like
sure.
One of those comedies. What were those called? Where
the Max Senate comedy.
Yeah.
It's funny though, Reva, because we of course in our country treat any hiccup by our elected leaders as a major scandal, and I don't mean to downplay the significance of President Clinton's dalliances that got him in so much trouble. But overseas and in other countries, they look at us and say, "You got to be kidding! What are you making such a big deal about?" Because corruption in those other parts of the world is rampant, and so relatively speaking, we have a very clean system over here, and we sometimes lose sight of that.
Yes. So give us a call and see if you agree with us, or if you want to support what you hear Ed Telfeyan saying, or go along with him and call us at 456-5199 with other points of view or projects that you're working on and you need some of our support. I do want to mention while we're on Peru that one of our guests from a few months back, Val John Ferris, is doing a workshop this Friday night at 7 to 9 at the East West Bookstore on Fair Oaks Boulevard near Howe. And it's called Inca Fire, the Light of the Masters. And he's a wonderful speaker and a wonderful person. And he went to Machu Picchu, and he had some enlightenment there way up on the mountaintop, and he talks about that. And so he's really inspired me to want to go to Peru and go to Machu Picchu, even though I once had two friends that were in a plane crash going into Machu Picchu. So I've been afraid to go all these years, and now with what's going on with the government, I'm a little afraid to go there, so I may have to pass it up.
Well, the State Department, of course, does maintain a list of all countries that are open to foreign travel by United States citizens. You can call the State Department office and get a reading on whether or not they are recommending that people stay away from Peru. I don't know that that's the case right now. By the way, it's President Fujimori is the person we've been talking about, and of course he's of Japanese descent, which suggests that Peru has become a much more cosmopolitan community or country of late. To think that a person of Japanese descent would be elected president.
I was surprised when that happened a few years ago.
Yeah, so that's interesting in and of itself.
Yeah, one of the other places I was thinking about wanting to travel to, and you might have some thoughts about it, because one of the articles that you sent me that you wrote about your own background, I'm thinking about Turkey, going to Turkey, and I know you have some relatives or your family came from that area. And
right.
Could you tell us a little bit about the history of Turkey and Armenia and that kind of thing?
It's not a
and what's going on now? Yeah.
It's not a pretty picture, but of course I am Armenian. Telfeyan is an Armenian name, and my parents are both full Armenian, so I'm full Armenian, of Armenian descent. The history of the Armenian people in Turkey is not a pretty one. In 1916 or thereabouts, the Turkish government initiated a genocide of the Armenian population within its borders.
By that you mean how many people?
Well, the numbers, of course, depend on who you talk to, but it's clear that over 1 million Armenians were killed.
Wow.
During the period starting around 1915 and running until as late as 1923. The interesting thing, and the thing that is a great frustration for current Armenians, descendants of those people who were subjected to this horror, is that the Turkish government for all those years since has refused to acknowledge that this event took place. And in essence, they're dealing in revisionist history. They are attempting to rewrite history to declare that there never was a genocide of the Armenian people. Now, of course, the facts are contrary, and if anyone doubts that, all you need to do is go into the archives of newspapers like the New York Times or even the Sacramento Bee.
Even the Sacramento Bee?
And you will find that they had very clear stories written by their reporters documenting the mass extermination of the Armenian people attempted by the Turkish government during those years. Yeah, Turkey itself, though, I might say, Reva, as a vacation site, is a beautiful country. I mean, the country itself is very beautiful. So I wouldn't want to turn you away from going there, but I'm not so sure that you would enjoy the people all that much. And that's obviously a prejudiced statement, but it comes from my own personal experience and the experience of my people.
We'll be right back.
Your radio station is The Voice, 91.5 FM, cable FM 88.7, and worldwide via streaming media at www.sacramento.org.
Okay, we're back with myself, Reva Camiel, your host, and Ed Telfeyan. No, I don't think I said it right, did I?
No, it's Telfeyan.
Telfeyan, that's so easy. Why don't you have an IAN in there?
Yeah, that's
Telfeyan,
probably
that's what's driving me nuts. Telfeyan.
Yeah, I don't know why my ancestors
why they get rid of
insisted on the YAN, but there are any number of Armenians with YAN names. The most common YAN Armenian name I can think of is William Saroyan, the author.
That's true.
And there are others who spell it YN. But IAN or YN, if you see an IAN or YN at the end of what appears to be an unusual name, more than likely it's an Armenian name.
Very good. So there used to be a country called Armenia,
Well,
right?
there currently is a country called Armenia. Armenia has one of the longest histories of any country in existence today. It was the first country to adopt Christianity as its state religion. In 307 AD, it became the state religion of the country of Armenia. Armenia existed as a country for several millennia before the birth of Christ and existed throughout the modern era up until the mid 18th century, when it was subsumed into Turkey. And now, of course, since then after World War II, after World War I, it became a republic in the USSR, in the Soviet Union, and then with the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1990, it regained its independence and is now again.
Is it right next to Turkey?
A fully sovereign, recognized nation, and it is located right next to Turkey.
And is it a beautiful country too?
Coast. Oh, absolutely.
On the coast.
I've never been to Armenia. but I speak now from secondhand information. I have been to Turkey, but my understanding is that it is a very beautiful country. Yes.
Yeah, I have been to Istanbul, and God, I never saw. It's a beautiful, beautiful city, and I didn't get into the inland parts at all.
Right.
But I finally got why that was such a major place. You know, it verges with a lot of rivers and a lot of oceans, and it's a beautiful city like San Francisco. It's like on a hill overlooking beautiful water. And the only thing that to me made a difference of between Turkey and San Francisco were the mosques and the, what are those called? The tall things like.
Yeah,
what are those religious things?
I'm not Muslim,
I can't think.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, those are kind of perched all over Istanbul. So give us a call at 456-5199, and if you have some ideas about Armenia or Armenians, and if you've had family that you know were slaughtered during that time, I know we do have a lot of people who came to the United States as a result of that in those years.
Right.
That was when the mass wasn't there?
Absolutely. In fact, my grandparents came here in 1916. Many families sent their children out of Turkey at that time if they had sufficient money to do so, and they would send them either to Europe or, in many instances, to the United States. Normally to the East Coast. My family is on the East Coast in New York, and now the more recent migration of Armenians has been to the West Coast, and in particular to Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles. That's what I understand.
In the Glendale area, there is now a gigantic Armenian population. As a matter of fact, it's interesting in terms of politics. There was
Duke Majin.
Well, Governor Majin, of course, was Armenian. But very recently, this year, last month, as a matter of fact, the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives was trying to push to get a resolution passed that would have had really no force of law, but would have been a statement by the House of Representatives acknowledging the Armenian genocide and urging the administration to acknowledge it. Every year, the president issues a proclamation on April 24th, which is the day that Armenians commemorate the genocide. And President Clinton has never used the word genocide in any of his proclamations. He talks about massacres, he talks about the terrible loss of life, and so on. But he doesn't actually call it a genocide because the Turkish government refuses to allow that word to be used. So it's really just a matter of...
How does it keep him from saying it?
Well, that's the interesting question. How does it stop him? The geopolitical issue is that Turkey is a very important ally to the United States, and it has constantly come up that we dare not offend Turkey, thereby running the risk that we would lose their support in these geopolitical issues.
Now, what makes them so important? Is it where they're located?
Where they're located. Yeah, I think it's where they're located.
Right at the.
Yeah. They're right at the hub of a lot of action. Iran is just over to the east. Russia obviously is not far away. So on this particular resolution, which was being pushed by the Republicans because of Representative Rogan's race for re-election, and
was he Armenian?
No, but he represents Glendale.
Oh. Okay.
And he is under attack for not having done enough for the Armenian people, and that is a swing district. And as you know, Reva, this year the House is very much up for grabs. Could go either way. And so Hastert, the Speaker of the House, promised Rogan that this would come to a vote. Well, it was delayed several times, got out of committee, was delayed several times, and then at the last minute they pulled it off of the docket because the president said we can't let this go to a vote, even though it wouldn't have the force of law. It's just a resolution of the House. And so now it'll be interesting to see what happens in the election on Tuesday, whether Rogan is elected or not. my sense is that he might lose his seat because they didn't have the ability to get that vote through.
It's funny, the kinds of things that'll make or break a campaign.
Yeah, sure.
And so people's votes and people organizing can make a very big difference.
Right.
Do Armenians tend to be more Republican or these days, or
I really don't
moved?
know. Obviously I'm a Democrat. I think that Governor Jukmajian, of course, was a Republican, and there were many Armenians who supported him because of his ethnicity. I run into Armenians who are Democrats. I run into Armenians who are Republicans, and I'm not sure that there's any way you can characterize them any more than you can any other ethnic
Are they doing
group.
pretty well in this country? Have they been successful professionally and in?
I think Armenians do well anywhere where they have the freedom to do well, and certainly you see Armenian. I mean, let's
Many
face it, it's a very
intellectuals.
small ethnic group, but you see Armenian names constantly in the arts, in education, in government. You're always seeing Armenian names, and I think Armenians do well. They value education, and they have a spirit about them, and I'm proud to be one of them.
Are the Turkish doing as well? And do we have many Turks in this country?
I can't answer that because I don't know, but you certainly, I would say they don't seem to be as visible. The Turks seem to make enemies. You know, the Greeks also don't have too many kind things to say about the Turks. They're a difficult people to like.
When I was there, one of the things that when I was in Istanbul, the people were nice. The only thing was the language is so different, and most of the people talk Turkish, and so it's not a lot of English. So it was a little bit harder in that country to communicate with people.
Right.
So any last things that you'd like to say before we have to close for today?
No, it's really nice to have been here with you, Reva, and I hope my editor would certainly want me to mention that the Gazette comes out every Friday.
Oh, good.
Published every week and comes out on Friday, and it's available at Borders, at Barnes & Noble, and at various other locations around town. And you can also subscribe to the Gazette. And if you do, you'll get my weekly columns, which appear on page 1 every week, as well as the columns I write under my pen name, which appear inside the paper every week. And they make for good reading.
Yes,
so
they do. He has emailed me a few of those, and I really enjoyed them a lot.
Good.
So I think we're about ready to close down. So let's see. I do want to remind you again that Valjean Ferris is going to be this Friday, November 3rd, from 7 to 9 o'clock at the East West Bookstore, and he wrote the book Inca Fire, Light of the Masters. And he talks about his real-life spiritual adventure story that was set high above the ruins of Machu Picchu in Peru. And so it should be just really wonderful, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them. And I think there is a small fee, so don't be surprised if you have to do that. And let's see, and remember to vote on November the 7th, and that's next Tuesday. And, read your voter's guide. I know those are a little tough to write. I know I got one that's called Easy Reader Voter Guide in the mail from somewhere. I don't know where I got it from, but
that's interesting.
From the state library.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was from the library. It's a nice, easy one.
There is a bond measure. One of the propositions, I'm not sure I remember which one, is a bond measure for the library.
Oh, that's a really important one.
That is a nice one. I voted for that one.
Oh, the library saved my life as a little kid.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a local proposition. It might be Proposition R
P. No,
or P.
P. I think it's P.
There we go. It's
yeah,
P.
That's a really important one. You know, if we really want to support our children and learning and keep the libraries open, this one was a very interesting one because I think it'll cost each person, I don't know, something like each family in the area, in the county, something like $22 extra a year. Yeah, it's Measure P. And it'll only cost something like $22 more in taxes, and it will make the libraries have money to pay to have them not only every day of the week, but night meetings and weekends for the libraries to be open. And that's been one of the big problems here in Sacramento. and in a lot of places in California that the libraries are, are closed so much of the time. And so here in the city of Sacramento, the libraries are open longer hours and have more computers and more everything. And so that $22 goes directly to the library in your neighborhood. So your $22 goes directly to your own little library. So just know that it's a really important one. It's a wonderful resource. They've got tapes and books and computers, and they'll have more of everything. So thanks for being with us, and listen now to Interaction, which follows. And we're having people from the CHAD, which is the ADD group, and they're talking about what you can do. So stay tuned, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.